very good evening to you and welcome to our brand new program, Equal Partners. The name says it all. This program focuses on equality. And we have with us two panelists on today's episode. It is the very first episode of a series of 10 videos which focuses on loving husband and loving fathers. And we will be having 5 programs of this nature. And today we will be talking to two very important guests, Mr. Robert Juhkam of UNDP, and he is the resident representative of UNDP Sri Lanka. A very good evening to you.
Good evening, Shareefa.
And we also have the Executive Director to the National Committee on Women, Mrs. Manel Jayamanne.
Good evening.
A very good evening to you, and we will be playing a couple of videos, but before that I would like to mention that this campaign was initiated by the National Committee on Women of the Ministry of Women and Child Development in collaboration with Men Engage Alliance, supported by the United Nations Development Programme. Let us now have a look at our very first video on loving husband.
Let me tell you a story, a true story of my friend. I went to visit him at his home after he got married. I saw that his wife ended up doing all the household chores, while my friend was of no help at all and did not lend a hand in any of the housework. I casually asked him why he didn't help. He responded, "That's a woman's work. We don't need to worry about those kind of things." I thought about what he said and I realized that it wasn't my friend's fault, but rather the reason as to why he came to be like this. It could be that from childhood we are taught to divide all the work as men and women's work. As I looked back on my own life in the past, I felt the same as my friend. When I lived by myself and had to rely on outside food for my meals, I experienced the disadvantage of not learning how to cook. I realized that I shouldn't leave all the household chores only to my wife. If we both worked together, then we could finish the chores quicker while enjoying the time spent together as well. We will both be happier without being a burden to each other. I especially care for my wife's health. We make an effort to spend dedicated time with each other. I'm a strength to my wife as she is to me, and I ensure that her mental health and well-being is looked after. This is because she is the most valuable person in my life. Every month, we dedicated some time to go out on an outing, watch a movie together, or even plant a tree in the garden. I know that some husbands don't help with household chores. They don't admire or respect their wives' efforts. They don't usually speak of any good things about her. Some men think that it's only the wife's role to attend to household chores. Initially, I also took some time to adjust and share the housework amongst ourselves. Some days, I even got a scolding or two as well, since this wasn't something that we were taught growing up. But I realized that all the work done within the house should be given equal respect. Learning the value of contributing towards the household chores is a life lesson for all. I have experienced this change from the way in which my wife shows her love and compassion, as well as the impression she has of me. So, would you change your attitude and the ways to become a more caring and loving husband? Let's take a small step today to change for the better.
And our discussion today will certainly revolve around this topic. So first video was on loving husband, and now let's take a look at our second video, which is on loving father.
This is my little girl. If it wasn't for my darling daughter, I wouldn't be a loving father today. The day that my beautiful baby girl came into this world was when I was given the title of father. Before my precious daughter was born, I thought of how she should be brought up to be an example in our society. I also understood that as a father, I have a huge responsibility to socialize my daughter. As a father, I do not want my daughter to be treated in a degrading or demeaning manner in society. The reality that many girls experience today, which would cause sadness and pain to her. As a loving father, how do I empower my daughter to make her own decisions on her safety? When she was a child, I could take her to the shops, town and school. But there's a limit to this, and I can't always be there to protect her. I must give my loving daughter the necessary guidance, skill and advice to empower her to stand on her own. From a young age, I want her to think of herself as a human being and develop many talents and skills, and not to be restricted in her role as a woman or the expectations of the society. I will teach her when making decisions in the home or outside to do it in a way that builds her character and her personality. Instead of society's stereotypical views of restricting her to household work, I will teach her to develop the capacity and mental strength needed to take on any type of work she prefers that will equip her for anything in life. I dream about such a daughter. I do not like to make her someone that tolerates violence, abuse, and cruel treatment, or is dependent on others. I will give my daughter all the possible guidance I can. In my capacity as a loving father, I will look into her health and well-being and show her the way to develop her skills. I will also teach her how to be fit and healthy. I am ready to fulfill my duties as a loving father. Are you ready to provide your precious daughter with this same guidance for her life?
Well, the main objective behind this program is to spread awareness on the importance of equality. So today's discussion will revolve around both the videos we just played, Loving Father, Loving Husband. So we have with us two panelists as I introduced previously. So my first question would be to Mr. Robert Juhkam. And would you please tell us your reflections on these videos as a husband and a father?
Starting with, well, first, good evening, Shareefa, and thank you for having me. As far as the husband goes, I think I have two thoughts come to mind. The most important, I think, is to value and respect your spouse. You found love together, and this is for men and women alike. You found love together, you made commitments to each other. So it's very important that you acknowledge that and always come back to it. That's the first thought I have. And I guess to make sure you nurture that, you need to spend time with your spouse. And secondly, sharing responsibility. You are equal partners. Therefore, doing your part as a man is very important from my perspective. Raising a family is not easy, and it's a joint effort. So I think those are the two main things I would like to highlight.
And your insights on these videos, Mrs. Jayamanne?
Well, first about the husband, loving husband. I appreciate the way this husband represents the ideal situation that we would like to have in this country. This is the desired goal actually for every woman, to have a good husband, loving husband, sharing her responsibilities, and even not only from home. It's good that it begins at home. Then such husbands or men will respect women in the society, in their workplace, in the transport, and everywhere they go. So I really appreciate the role played by the man here, how he respects, and he says the most valuable person in my life is my wife. So to give such a highest honor to a woman at home is, I am sure that every woman in Sri Lanka would like to hear and have such a good husband. And I have seen actually in my own life different roles of husbands, like my father as a husband, my own husband, and my daughter's husband. I see the change actually. The men really change their attitudes towards women. There are small pockets where you get some men who cannot understand it, and even some women support that they have the right to beat their wife. Those are the findings of recent surveys.
But don't you think that when you look at Sri Lanka now, it has evolved?
The change has come. The husbands have learned or changed their attitude towards their spouse, the wife. But at the same time, there are areas that men take the high hand, if I may to say, show their masculinity, and that's why we talk about violence against women, especially the agency that I am representing, National Committee on Women, get a lot of complaints about beating wives, and that's where we have 1938 helpline for such women.
Exactly, and it's always great to have a man's opinion on that as well.
Well, well, to speak to violence against women, of course, there's no tolerance for that sort of thing, or children. Violence and abuse, abusive language are both just unacceptable. But coming back to the spouses, the husband and wife, I think men also need to recognize that women their spouses have their own desires and hobbies and interests. And if their time is preoccupied with the triple burden of taking care of family, of taking care of their job, of taking care of the housework, then it's an unequal partnership again.
Exactly, and I think this would also change the mindset of the children if both husband and wife understand each other. And if they don't, it can have a bad impact on the kids as well, isn't it?
That's right. It creates an intergenerational problem that if badly raised or if abused as children, or if a child witnesses their mother being abused by their father, then they're likely to internalize that and carry it forward to their family life once they're grown up.
And Mrs. Jayamanne, you did mention that you've seen 3 generations. So speak us through what you have seen and how this has evolved and what you see right now.
Yes, looking at my father as a husband and a father, I thought they belong to the old generation of dominating husbands. Everything in the family was decided by father. We had to approach our father also through my mother. But when it came to my husband, I think there was a dialogue between us. And I see that dialogue is extended in the present generation, where I see modern day husbands, when they can communicate with each other. They find time to talk to each other of their problems, maybe day-to-day incidences in the workplace or while traveling. And about children, this dialogue is very important, and that's where they can build up the partnership and equality. Why there is no equality in the families? Because they refrain from talking to each other. Sometimes the silence also is harassment or violence. Therefore, I always believe, I saw in this video, that they find time. The husband will find time for themselves. They go somewhere, they at least plant a tree. That's very important, at least to dedicate few minutes in the day for their own communication.
Exactly. And how does your work enhance gender equality? Now that we are here to talk about the importance of gender equality, how does your work enhance this?
Well, first we should recognize that these unequal relations are a reflection of unequal power structures, in fact, and unequal decision-making agreements between spouses. So if there's not an equal partnership, if you follow gender stereotypes where the man is supposed to be the decision maker, then you're doing a disservice. Pardon me?
The breadwinner, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
breadwinner is part of it, the other is the decision maker, the hard hand to deal with the difficult situations. If you follow those gender stereotypes, you end up creating exactly that, what you're doing and perpetuating the problem. So UNDP looks to address this through various initiatives. Amongst them, we work with women who have, for example, are single, have lost their husbands, who have died. They still have a family to take care of. So we look to strengthen their skills and their capabilities and provide support, because some of the women who we are helping actually have suffered from an abuse of sexual bribery, for example, which is a kind of moral corruption you can't imagine. That you're forced to get something through that means. So supporting that is one important thing we do. Of course, working with the State Ministry of Women and Child Development now, we had in earlier years helped to develop the National Action Plan against gender-based violence, which is, making sure that the whole state apparatus, the whole government, that all people are aware and working against that.
And this is also a campaign which is supported by the UNDP, and it's also another step in terms of promoting gender equality and spreading awareness. And well, let's talk a little bit about what should be done in terms of educating the people, apart from spreading awareness and telling them that it's important to be equal, it's important to, share your burdens, communicate and all that. What should be done at school level, Mrs. Jayamanne? Don't you think that this should be educated and taught from home and then at school? I think most of the time kids are at school.
No, but they live with their parents too. So I think it should start from home. When they see their parents are very friendly and loving, and they live in such a harmonious environment, and this spreads. There is a spreading effect. It goes to the school, and even in the schools, those children are very helpful to others. So I see that multiplier effect in their behavior. At the same time, now given our society, there are so many elements affecting this harmonious situation. But in that sense, I think I support in one of the videos, the father is teaching the daughter the self-defense, martial arts. I am sure that this is something that we all women must learn, only our self-defense, not to fight with men. But in that sense, I think this video sends a message to the society, even husbands and wives, how to build that harmonious relationship at home and spread it to the children and bring their children up in that kind of a peaceful situation. And then only the society at large will be a peaceful society, where people can respect each other, not only women, actually women must respect men. So this is the respect for each other, because men and women have to live together in this society.
That is why we call it equal partners.
Yeah.
That's right.
And this is the final question. Any message on building positive relationship to our viewers?
Well, I think we've touched on the positive messages, and one of the videos did speak to the loving father, which is that you need to nurture your children in a healthy environment. Personally, I have 3 children, and my daughter is the eldest, and I, as was reflected in the video, really spent much time thinking about how would she feel strong when she goes forward in society. And we did a diversity of things. Of course, I taught her to ride a bicycle when she was young, but then she was in her teens, we went riding together in the mountains, off-road on a mountain bikes. And this gave her skills that she might not have otherwise had. She might have been playing with dolls or something like that only.
That mindset is still there. But sometimes they'll be like, if it's a girl, you need to buy a doll. A guy, you got to buy something different. So I think this is one example.
That's one example.
Yes.
But I think the main thing is that she's developed skills now to become successful in business and stand on her own and stand up to bullying and violence, which she experienced also as a young girl in school. So I think that's one of the most important messages, is create the nurturing environment. Treat your wife, if you're a man, your children as equal partners in the family. Give them space. Recognize that they are also individuals with desires and hobbies, and that they need space to exercise those. And for the wife, give her the space to pursue her job, which can be fulfilling. Without a job, maybe you wouldn't be able to realize your greatest fulfillment. And you can help by washing the clothes, doing the shopping, cleaning up around the house more regularly. If your wife is taking care of the elders or the children, then you can create space for her by taking steps in the house on your own. So those are some of the things I'd say.
And your message, Mrs. Jayamanne?
Yes, my strong message to everyone is respect, the term respect. In Sri Lanka, culturally and historically, we respect each other, especially the family. Mother respected her, my father, or fathers were respected in the family in our culture, and therefore it's not, you are bowing down to the other person. So if we if we nurture the respect in every sphere, not only at home, even everywhere, if the problem is people do not want to respect another person. Respect your voice, respect what the other person is doing, listen to him or her. That kind of respect to each other, if we propagate and if we nurture it in the society, I am sure we can have a good society free from harassment or violence. Our problem is that we don't know the meaning of how to respect, although religious groups are advocating it morning till late in the night or 24 hours. In Buddhism it says Maitri, in Christian religion it's love your neighbor, love each other. So I think that is what I mean by respect. So I really urge everyone in our society, particularly Sri Lankans, to respect everyone, honor everyone. All are human beings. It may be a poor person economically or socially in a different strata, but why can't we respect another human being? If we treat everyone as respectable human beings, our society will be a much better one than today.
Thank you very much. And with that message, it's time for us to wind up our first episode. Thank you very much, Mr. Robert Juhkam, for being a part of the show.
Shareefa.
And thank you very much, Mrs. Manel Jayamanne. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
With that, we conclude our first episode. See you on our next episode of Equal Partners. Take care.